Show onboard computer synchronization.
Now entering the nexus of geekery and guy world. In 3, 2, 1, mark.
Hello, IT? Have you tried turning it off and on again?
This is the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast, a service of Shark Flight Publishing.
Hey kids, welcome back for another edition of the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast. I am your host, Ian J. Malone, joined this evening by my buddy Dave Daniels. Scott Esther is on break this evening, so going to get to him in just a second. First, the laundry list of stuff. You can find us online if you got questions about the show at dudesinhyperspace.com. You can also email us at dudesinhyperspace@gmail.com and follow us on social media. We do the Facebook and the Twitter things at the Hyper Dudes. So lots of good stuff to get to tonight. We got Star Wars stuff to talk about. We got the news. We've got some dude mail to get into. Maybe even share a little bit of Thanksgiving talk, cooking talk. We're always about that. So should be a nice, loose, chill-out edition of the show. So, Dave Daniels, how are you this evening, good sir?
I'm doing just fine. I have a fine glass of Redbreast 12-year single pot going on, and I'm enjoying your company, so I'm doing very well.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm pretty envious. That's some pretty righteous stuff. Good friend of the program, brother Jeff, bought Dave and I both a bottle of that for our 40th birthdays a couple of years ago. And I was telling Dave off air, man, I did my best to really stretch that out, and I think I made that bottle last for about 6-7 weeks. But just truly righteous stuff, the Redbreast. So well done, sir.
I have definitely done a little better than 6 weeks. I've definitely savored it.
Well, you know, hey man, it's I'm married with kids, so I don't know what else to say about that other than that just gives me a certain skate ability. Moving along. So anyway, it has been a minute since last we've had a chance to do one of these. So what have you been up to? I know Scott's been slammed with work travel and with youth soccer. He's got a daughter that plays a ton of soccer and is really big into that, so he stays really busy with them. But what have you been up to, man?
You know, I got a chance to go to Chicago for a little bit, a couple of days, did some training there for my main job.
Yep. Also,
just work, man. It seems like a good bit of all what I do, and now I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving. Hopefully I'll get a half day on Wednesday, and then I'll be able to get a nice long weekend out of it.
Did see on the old Twitter machine where you got to take a little trip to Indianapolis not too long ago, and I'm incredibly envious of that because I have yet, for being the race fan that I am, I have never been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that is definitely a bucket list trip for me, and you got to do that. So what was your take on that, man?
You know, I've never really been an open wheel fan, but sacred places in sports are always a big thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, I like racing. I like things that go fast. I've just never really watched a whole lot of open wheel. And I did this year. You know, who I'm dating's from Indianapolis, so she's a big Indy 500 fan. She had never done this tour, even though she had been to the park a couple of times or the track a couple of times. And I got the chance to do what they call the Kiss the Bricks tour, where they take you out. They've got the guy that's a legendary announcer that's talking about each corner, what everything is going through, and then towards the end of it, you come around, you stop at the start-finish line where they've got the yard of bricks. You get the chance to get out, take all the pictures you want to. Of course, had to get the picture of myself and Abby kissing the bricks. Got that hung up in the house now, and really enjoyed myself. Obviously, hit the gift shop on the way out. I'm a big hat person, so I got a wonderful Indy Motor Speedway hat on the way out the door, and I enjoyed myself. It was definitely a good time.
Huge news in open wheel while we were away. And I know there's not a whole lot of open wheel fans who listen to this show, so we won't spend a whole lot of time on it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Roger Penske, guy who anybody who knows anything about things on four wheels knows, now owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Media Company, and the IndyCar Series, the entire IndyCar Series. So that is, for people who know racing, that was the shot heard round the world because nobody saw that coming at all. I woke up on a Monday morning and Jenna Fryer, the Associated Press, had reported it on Twitter, and she appeared in her tweet to be just as blown away by that as I was reading it. So huge news in open wheel. Going to be very interesting to see how Roger runs that whole outfit. Roger's the quintessential businessman. So if anybody can really breathe some new life into open wheel, he can do it. But he's also a guy who you will never find anybody with more reverence for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the 500 and open wheel racing than Roger Penske. He's the godfather of that. So, going to be interesting times, interesting stuff to watch. So, speaking of news, we do have some headlines. So, what do you say we go ahead and climb into this?
Let's hit it.
And now the news.
Okay, so leading things off from a galaxy far, far away. According to a recent article from Forbes, The Mandalorian is already a bigger success than Star Trek Discovery, Stranger Things, Westworld, and Doctor Who at 7 days out from its launch. The story cites statistics from a data firm called Parrot Analytics. And Parrot says that as it stands all of this is at the 7-day marker, that Mandalorian is 298% ahead in viewership of Star Trek Discovery of its Season 2 premiere. Mandalorian is 175% up on Westworld Season 2 premiere at 7 days out. It is 72.3% ahead of Doctor Who Season 11 at 7 days out of its Season 11 premiere. And then finally, it is 69.8% ahead of Stranger Things Season 2 at its 7 days out from launch point. So no real explanation as to why they chose those particular dates, but the big takeaway from the article is Disney really knows how to launch a freaking new product. And that is all they have to say about that. Sticking in the galaxy far, far away, J.J. Abrams is making the rounds to promote The Rise of Skywalker. He's done a number of interviews over the last month or so with all kinds of publications ranging from Entertainment Weekly to Empire and Rolling Stones. He's covered a myriad topics, everything from the film's running time to the story origins and its place in the overall framework of the Skywalker saga. However, he has also touched upon why it is that Rey is just awesome out of the gate. Abrams says, and I quote, "She pretty much just wakes up in the morning and pisses excellence," close quote. That's not at all what, that's a Talladega Nights reference for all my fellow NASCAR fans. Abrams says, as I get crickets, yes, spooky, right? When asked about Rey's abilities in The Force Awakens. He then smiles and says, it's a fair point. It's also not an accident. So apparently all the fans that have had issue with the fact that Rey was awesome out of the gate, you're going to get an explanation in the film for why that is. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker hits theaters on December 20th. Finally, in the news, it seems that Paramount Studios is ready after all to boldly go after a fourth installment of its Star Trek film franchise. Noah Hawley, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He is the mastermind behind FX's Legion series, is set to write and direct a film which will star Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, and others as the fabled crew of the Starship Enterprise. No timetable yet on when fans can expect Star Trek IV to hit theaters, and that is the news. So, top story, Mandalorian. We've waited a long time for this one. We've talked a lot about this one. Now it is finally here. I know you've had a chance to watch all 3 episodes. I've watched all 3 episodes. So, what you think, man? Mandalorian, did it hit the mark?
So the question becomes here: how spoiler do you want to be on this?
Let's give some open stuff. Okay. And I tell you what, here's what we'll do. For the people who have not seen this, we'll do a quick post-credit scene after we wrap up the show, and we'll give some spoilers on the show. So keep it non-spoilery here for folks who haven't seen it. If you have seen it and you want our thoughts with spoilers, stick around after the show. We'll bust those out there. So how's that? Is that a compromise?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
If I was a listener of the podcast, I would be completely enthralled with that. If I was giving spoilers out, I would be on you like a spider monkey.
So you with the Talladega Nights reference. Nice, sir. I laughed at your joke. I just want that known.
Well, mine was funny.
Are you trying to say something? Okay.
All right, so back to the topic at hand. It did. It hit the mark. It has hit the mark completely. I love the feel. It's very old school Star Wars, all the way down to the old school George Lucas screen swipes to do the wipes between scenes. It's great. It's got a great feel to it. It is Star Wars. It is Star Wars for people my age. It's a great story, and so far so good.
Yeah, I wholly agree, man. They nailed the look. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really have a whole lot of concerns about this. I felt fairly safe that most of my expectations for this were probably going to be met just because of the people who were involved. Jon Favreau knows what he's doing in this sandbox. There's no doubt about that. Also, Dave freaking Filoni is awesome. For those who don't know who Dave Filoni is, he's kind of the brain man behind Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is a guy who studied at the feet of George Lucas before Lucasfilm ever went anywhere near Disney. You could make the argument that next to Lucas, nobody on the face of this planet knows more about Star Wars than Dave Filoni. The guy is a great storyteller, and he has a true passion for this property. So when I found out it was going to be Favreau and Filoni and a whole nother cast of great writers behind them bringing this show to life, I didn't really have a whole lot of concerns that it was going to suck. I figured they would probably do it. The only question was how close to the mark would they hit, and I think you nailed it. They flat hammered it, man. The look is fantastic. I think the stories are wildly entertaining. They definitely hit the nostalgia note that make it look and feel like Star Wars, but at the same time, this is not at all a retread. You start talking about nostalgia and everybody jumps straight to The Force Awakens, and okay, so we're going to do that again, are we? Really not at all. No, this is brand new Star Wars that looks and feels like what you grew up with, but it is a new story all the way around. So I highly recommend this series.
The Western feel to it as well. It's just the old school Western plus Star Wars. It makes me really excited that these people are probably going to be the same ones involved with Kenobi when it finally comes out, and that really excites me.
The lady who, I don't know if she was the lead writer, but she directed this last episode, the chapter 3, The Sin, which was already huge episode. The lady who directed that is doing the entire Ben Kenobi series, which I believe is only going to be about 6 episodes, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, there's a lot of little things I think they can do if they're successful with this. Man, once they get Kenobi out of the way, I'm really hoping that we can get some Vader Chronicles.
Yeah,
maybe the comic series that came out last couple of years. Little things like that is Vader finally becomes Vader, and he becomes that force that is the end of Rogue One.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll see them doing a Vader series. It seems like the whole mantra of Lucasfilm now is moving forward. We're passing the baton. We're doing new characters and new tales and new sections of the galaxy that nobody has seen before. And to some degree, I'm good with that. Just treat what came before with reverence. Give it respect. And in some instances, with the new trilogy in particular, I don't think they did that. That's where I take umbrage with them. Not as much as some, but I definitely have my issues with it on that front. But then again, Mandalorian does not do that, man. Mandalorian, we will have much to discuss after the show is over with. But not sticking non-spoilery, though, aside from the look and the feel of this and kind of the backwater Western vibe, what are some of your favorite things about this that you like?
Well, the storytelling. I mean, you go in, it's a character in a race of people. If you've watched Clone Wars, you know that the Mandalorians are a race of people that didn't get a whole lot of backstory. You don't know a whole lot about them. You don't know what's going on and why Boba Fett was what he was. Now, you started to get some of that in the prequels, but not a whole lot. But you get to see a lot more of their tradition and the things that they really get into that you saw some of in the Clone Wars, that you got to be able to go through in this environment and going through. So, I mean, the storytelling's been fantastic, and it's just been good to see. Everything kind of lumped together has just been great.
I think some of the actor choices for the different roles in this have been fantastic. Carl Weathers, I'm a child of the 80s, man. It's freaking Apollo Creed. Come on. He was Apollo Creed. He was, I can never remember his name in Predator, but he was just the bad guy in Predator, but he was great. Yeah. They've told you in the casting sheets and the synopsis that he's involved with the bounty hunters. Okay. That's, I'm not spoiling anything there. He is. And he's awesome. He plays the part beautifully. He's a fantastic addition. The other guy that you hear in the previews going, "A year of bounty hunting is a very dangerous profession," or something to that ilk. He's an actor that you've seen a lot. He's another one of those that guy actors that you've seen in a bunch of different stuff. Great job. When you meet him, when you figure out kind of what he is and what his role in all this is, really, really nails it. The other thing I really like about this show, and this I did not see coming, I expected that the vast majority of season 1 of The Mandalorian would be one-off episodes to kind of establish the world, establish the characters, establish the world. Episodes that, your typical season 1 episodes of story. Season 2, a lot of times they say on television, is where a show grows its beard. So season 1 is what leads up to that. They're episodes that matter because they introduce you to people and places, but in the grand scheme of the big story, a lot of them can kind of be forgettable. They're one-off deals. Not with The Mandalorian. Not with The Mandalorian at all. They take about an episode to do that, and then they jump into what is clearly going to be their big story moving forward. And I can't wait to see where that goes. And we'll, again, tackle that in the post-credits scene.
The good part of that being that, while they jump right into it, they don't even take the full episode to really tell that story. Yeah. I mean, it's like literally the first maybe, 10 minutes? If that. 5 to 7. And then it's like, okay, we get a little backstory on him. We kind of realize that he is certified. He carries the wallet. And it was the scene from the previews that everyone's seen. So you see that he carries that wallet, and then there's a little more of that as they goes forward and kind of tells us what he's got, and then bam. So, yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Definitely some Easter eggs for Star Wars fans to look out for. Whether you're a fan of just old school original trilogy Star Wars a la Boba Fett, whether you were a fan of the Clone Wars, even the prequels, there's some stuff in there that's definitely nice little Easter eggy material there that you're going to get a kick out of if you're a Star Wars diehard. So
and even a little Easter egg from the Christmas special as well.
Yeah, there you go. So can you tell people what you would like to see out of this show moving forward without getting spoilery, or is that something you've got to wait until afterward for?
Just a continuation of what we've got so far.
Okay.
As long as you continue telling that story and you bring it to some type of fruition that will lead into the next season, I'm good. I think that it's fantastic so far, and I'm really looking forward to this for the long haul. I like what they're doing so far with the season, but I definitely want to see what they do 2-3 seasons down the road.
It's already been greenlit for a season 2. That's already on the way. So no worries about that. I don't. This is not a prerequisite to make this show good. I just think it would be nice. I'd like to see it somehow tie into the Rise of Skywalker in some way. And the reason I say that is because Last Jedi really didn't do anything to set up the story that it looks like they're going to tell in Rise of Skywalker. I mean, if you knew all along that you were going to bring back Palpatine, which they didn't, that's an Abrams story thing. We found that out, I guess, about a week or two ago. The original writer for Rise of Skywalker was interviewed, and they asked him if he did that. And he's like, no, that wasn't in my script. JJ did that after he took over for me. So, if you knew Palpatine was coming back all along, I would have liked to have seen that teased, so it doesn't just feel like this last movie is you're going to try and save a trilogy by cramming a whole bunch of story into 140 minutes. But I would like to see them maybe somehow through The Mandalorian kind of tease a little bit about how that happens. So when I go in to watch Rise of Skywalker, I feel like I've got a little bit more background. Don't just, shotgun it to me and then say, okay, that's the end of the Skywalker saga. I mean, take this opportunity to give me a little bit of texture, a little bit of depth to that story while you can.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I mean, what's the timeline for this? It's after Return.
It is 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
I mean, I guess there's something they could work into there, but quite honestly, let's just make it its own property. I mean, I like that there's some tie-ins, there's some Easter eggs. Let that trilogy do what it's going to do. Let the last story be what the last story is going to be, and if you want to tease something into it, if you want to put some of the original trilogy or some of the other stuff into it, do that. But let's not mire it up with trying to cross promote. Let's just make it its own thing. Let's just continue to make it its own deal, because that, quite honestly, I mean, it has been what they've done well so far. I think a lot of people had problems with Solo, but I liked Solo. I thought it was exactly what it needed to be.
Yeah, I did too. It was a fun movie.
Yeah, and and Rogue One I think was a fantastic movie. I think it was a great way to bridge everything they had going on with that. So let's just make it its own property. Let's just make it its own thing. Let's see where it goes. If you want to throw something in there at some point down the road that's got some stuff in it, great. But nothing that really has to bridge off. Let's just make it the Easter egg that it already is and make it its own series.
All right, that's something to definitely be said for that. No doubt about it. So, all right, as mentioned, we will at the end of the show, after credits and whatnot, we'll throw out a couple of spoilers on this. So stick around after the show if you want to get those. If not, that's what we think of The Mandalorian. So, shifting gears, another thing that we've been teasing the crap out of pretty much since we started the show, and that is the release of Ford versus Ferrari. Movie stars Matt Damon, Christian Bale, John Bernthal, and a Punisher, Walking Dead. Story about the 66 Le Mans, 65 Le Mans, Grand Le Mans?
65.
Yeah. We've been looking forward to this, been talking about it. Finally drops. Dave and I both got to go see it this weekend. I'm going to tell you, this one was everything I wanted it to be. It was get the big Coke and the big popcorn and just sit back and enjoy a great, exciting thrill ride of a film, but with a great story. Knowing that this is a true story, that this happened, being a racing guy, knowing that this was a part of history. I put on Twitter, seeing this movie reminds us all why multiple generations of Americans were so enthralled with our nation's car culture. Whether it's, the 60s, whether you get into the muscle cars of the 70s. There's a reason why we loved speed as Americans. It's not just Americans, it's a global thing, but, you start talking about the GTOs and all that stuff. It was just an awesome, awesome time. And so much of what we loved on the street was honed and was brought to light and was refined on the racetrack. Whether that's at Daytona, whether that's at Indianapolis, whether that's at Le Mans, that is where engineering, prowess, racing excellence, that's where it was born out. Those were the gold standards. Put all that together, and this was just an amazing flick to watch. I loved every minute of it. What'd you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely fantastic. I mean, if you look at the overall history, just the automobile part of itself, the automobile was invented here by Henry Ford. Well, for the most part, by Henry Ford. And everything that went forward and everything that moved past, and then how everyone else started doing something different. And then the Americans were just getting killed at Le Mans. And then just the whole, it's a story that I did not know a whole lot about. And so I purposely did not try to go educate myself by reading something until after the movie was done to see how things went and how it went through. And of course, you've got two fantastic actors that are doing the two main leads that are just, it was great. It's great to watch. Again, it's open wheel, and it's not really open wheel. It's just road course.
Sports cars. Yep.
Sports cars, and it's one of those things where, I didn't know a whole lot about it. I do like things that go fast. I like driving things that go fast if I can, and just to be able to watch that part of history and see what happened with it, and you hear names like Carroll Shelby. And it's like, okay, all right, yeah, I know who that guy is. I know what's going on. But to see how that became what it was in the fashion that they did it in, it's fantastic storytelling. I'll be surprised if one or both of them isn't up for an Oscar at some point with that.
Well, we all know the Oscars doesn't typically like to recognize real movies, so I won't be holding my breath on that. not in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I just enjoy these types of films. I enjoy anything with a history element to it. But yeah, it was really kind of everything that I wanted it to be. You really nailed it on Matt Damon and Christian Bale, man. God, I'm trying to remember the last time I was this impressed with Matt Damon. He was really good in The Martian. He deserved everything he got for that, but man, I thought this one surpassed that. It's probably the best role I've seen him in a good 5 or 10 years. As for Christian Bale, obviously he gets lots of love because he was Batman. He could play Bruce Wayne / Batman in his sleep. He's definitely more known for when he does the more nuanced stuff, the American Hustles of the world, American Psycho, obviously. Heck, I remember watching Christian Bale when he was the little kid in Empire of the Sun. Old movie about World War II. I mean, this was some of his best work, man. Only a couple of times in the movie did I remember that he was Christian Bale and not Ken Miles. So, just all the way around, man. I highly recommend this one to anybody. I took my 13-year-old kid to go see it, kind of trying to get him a little bit of the racing bug. He enjoyed it. So yeah, we enjoyed it in the Malone house.
It's definitely worth taking the family to. If you get the chance, if you and the wife just want to go see it, or you and the husband just want to go see it, take the time to upgrade the tickets to the fun seats, the ones that give you the rumble packs, the one that kind of give you the extra going into it, because it's definitely worth it to get that little extra oomph out of it.
Yep, no doubt. The best barometer that I can give this film. I have a good friend of mine who I used to work with in my day job, who is not at all into the types of movies that we often talk about on this show. She is very much the art house. She was counting the days until the Downton Abbey film came out. That's very much her deal. Her husband, on the other hand, races sports cars as an amateur. He drives VIR, Virginia International Raceway, over not too terribly far from here. He has done, just little road courses and stuff around the area. Him and a bunch of buddies build a car in a garage, and that's what they do for fun. So he was chomping at the bit to go see this film. She messaged me on Facebook to say, I went with my husband to go see this film, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Naturally, he loved it. That went without saying, but I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It was a great story. So them's big words there.
It just goes to show, I think, that even if it's no matter what the story is, as long as you can have good storytelling in the movie, you're going to be able to catch enough of that going through. It doesn't have to be a retread. You can go find stuff that's humanity, that's this type of thing. You don't have to keep remaking things, Hollywood. You don't have to keep remaking things, Hollywood. Go find stories, compelling human stories to tell, and people will go and watch them.
Yep, I wholly agree. Speaking of, I looked at my wife when we were sitting in the theater, and I don't know if you got this. Our showing was allegedly supposed to start at 11:30 on Saturday morning. The credits did not roll to open that film until about 12:05. I looked at my wife and said, I'm all for movie trailers. I think movie trailers are fun. But you add this up with all the ads I was subjected to before this, the price that it costed me to get a Coke, an icy for the kid, and a pack of Twizzlers, versus the cost of the tickets, and the fact that this gigantic Preggers lady insisted on walking into about 75% empty theater at 11:30 in the morning and sitting down in the seat immediately beside me, because that is the seat that she had purchased online. Nobody else on the row, but had to, sit down in that seat. I just kind of looked at her and was like, this is kind of why people sit at home and say, that new Irishman movie's coming out on Netflix. Maybe I'll save the bucks and just stay home and watch that. That is Martin freaking Scorsese, after all. It's not like Netflix is cranking out the Adam Sandler originals as their big ta-das anymore. They're actually kind of bringing it with big-time films and big-time filmmakers. I say all of that to say, terrestrial movies, man, they really, really do have to step up their game. And that is probably why Hollywood does so many retreads and reboots, because they feel like it's a more surefire thing to get ticket sales. People know it. They'll go buy it. May not roll the dice on it otherwise, and frankly, we're losing enough money as it is, so go with the retreads.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just overall, there's just something for me, and I think you and I agree with this completely, is that there's something very magical about watching a story on the big screen,
sure,
even if there's a bunch of people in there,
sure,
to be able to sit down and just experience that going through. There's not a whole lot that beats that sensation when it's a good movie in a good environment. And of course you have to have the pack of Twizzlers, because I was raised right.
There you go. No doubt. For the record, I so tried to fart in that seat next to that lady when she sat down next to me, but of all the days to not have one in me. I don't know if that's going to make the final cut. I may leave that in there. I might not. It just depends on how I feel. Moving on.
Sir, when you go to a theater, You never go with an empty chamber. What is wrong with you? You have enough chili at your house to be able to make this happen. You never go with an empty chamber.
Yeah, well, Jack Nicholson had some words about that sort of thing in Age in the bucket list. So, the 3 things that you never forget in life, sir. But anyway, we'll save that one for another day. So, okay, bringing that one to a close. Ford versus Ferrari, home run, in my opinion. I would dare say I've seen 3 great films in 2019. And quick little preview of our next episode. I think we're going to spend some time kind of doing the end of year thing where we think back and reflect back on some of the cool stuff that we've seen all year and blah, 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 and look ahead to 2020. But real quick, I've seen 3 great films in 2019. Avengers Endgame, we've talked about this before, not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but given the task that movie had to achieve, tying off 10 years of storytelling across multiple franchises, that has never been done before. And given all it had to do, I think that film did a great job of closing this phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Herculean effort, you guys paid it off, great job. So Avengers Endgame. The second great film that I saw was Joker. And if you want our thoughts on that, go back and listen to the Hot Take edition where Dave and I reviewed that after opening weekend. It was a great film. I mean, timeless film. And then this one would be number 3, without a doubt. Those are my top 3 films of 2019. I've seen a lot of other movies that were good films. Thoroughly enjoyed Spider-Man Far From Home. There were some other Marvel movies and stuff in there that were fun movies, but nothing memorable. This was not in that category, not by a long shot. It was a great film.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that in a later episode, but I definitely agree so far.
All right, sir. What do you say we kick in with some dude mail?
Let's do it.
You got mail.
Okay, dude mail in the house. We will kick things off with a email from Ruben. Hey, fellas, love the show. My question is for the fellow Canes fan of the group, my boy Dave. FIU. What the hell, man?
I was about to say.
Are we going to be like FSU where we fire our coach into year 2 of his tenure, or is there actually hope? Please save me. Hashtag all about the U. Hashtag dumpster fire. What say you? Apparently you are not the only Cane in this house. Ruben shares your pain.
Oh man. I watched that game and I don't know what's going on when it comes to how things are happening with that, but we had 3 bye weeks this season, by the way, which is so weird. But after all 3 bye weeks, we just did not do well. We lost 2 out of 3 on that. And, I think the talent is there. I think that Manny is the guy to do it. I still do. I think that maybe because of the struggles that they've had with Duke, I'd like to think that maybe because of the struggles we've had with Duke over the last few years, that they just kind of looked past FIU. They got wrapped up maybe in the splendor of being on the old Orange Bowl site. That being said, that was utterly embarrassing. To have your old coach walk in and just fake injury his way into a victory, just God bless.
Oh, sure.
Ruben, I'm right there with you, buddy.
I read that headline and was, ooh. I don't know if I should call Dave or if I should give him some time to absorb this one. I ended up giving it some time. But no, I don't think there's, and I promise you, man, this is not just me taking a shot. I don't think there's any way to justify that. That's the kind of loss that you really do just turn around and look at your head coach and say, what are you doing in practice? I mean,
Yep.
Really, what are we doing here? Because I don't care about hardships. I don't care about transition. I don't care about culture. I don't care about any of that. This is inexcusable at this program. All right. If we're USF, whole different conversation. Fine. This is the University of Miami, or at least we used to be. And this is inexcusable.
Here's the thing with this, though. If you look at what's happened with us over the last year since Manny took over, yeah, there's some things that need to change. There's some things that he's done different. They overhauled the offense. And I think for the most part, the offense has progressed. That game was not a good indicator of it. I think that Jaron, as a redshirt freshman, Jaron Williams, is the guy. I think that he has the skills to do it. I think there are times when he just has those moments like everybody does. The defense is there. I think this is just a one-off, and it definitely should not have happened. It's not something that, I mean, to me, this is on par with Appalachian State beating Michigan.
Sure.
This is a historic loss. This is not something that should have happened. This is a bad team from Conference USA. This isn't even a good Conference USA team. But you look at it. This is why crosstown rivalries are never a good thing to have as well, because you've got a roster full of players that want to play at your school that are now playing for your rival, that grew up watching these guys play. All Butch Davis had to do to motivate these guys was keep telling them that and feeding them that, and Butch is really, really good at that. And so for Miami, we had nothing to gain out of that game, everything to lose. They stuck it in Marlins Stadium for some stinking reason, and because neither one of us played there. And when they got done with that game, you had the perfect storm for something to go wrong. We were just completely stuffy for 3.5 quarters. And then all of a sudden the offense woke up and went through and started playing, and the defense couldn't stop water. It amazed me to watch that game. But, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I think as of right now, I'm still a believer. You've got to give a coach a couple of years to get his feet under him, to get his recruits in. Those defensive guys are his guys, but the offense, you've got to give them the opportunity to go through. We just stole a 4-star recruit away from Alabama at receiver. They're recruiting well on offense. Got to get that offensive line back up where it needs to be to make it elite. That defense, for the most part, for the last 3 years, has been elite. So we just got to continue to just got to keep doing it. Just got to keep plugging away, and I think Manny's the guy to do that. I still do.
Next question comes to us from Tom. Yo, guys, I've got in-laws coming into town for Thanksgiving, which means that I am in direst need of some quality binge-watching material while I pass time hiding out in my man room. What are you watching these days, and where can I find it? Happy holidays and Hashtag dude mail. Tom, email of the day, brother. Well, and he even threw in a hashtag in an email. That's awesome. Way to stick it. All right, shows. What are you watching these days, Dave? Could be geek stuff, can be not. I don't care. What are you watching? Other than sports, what are you watching?
Yeah, obviously The Mandalorian. If you've not picked it up, if you don't have Disney Plus, go get it. Go find a way. It is definitely worth doing it with just the first 3 episodes. By this weekend, there will be 4. I wish they were a little longer.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, wish they were a little longer, but they are good. If you want to go back and get a couple of things that have got a couple of seasons behind them, there's a show on Amazon Prime called Busch. It is a fantastic crime drama. Titus Welliver is the main character there. I've been trying to talk Ian into going and watching that show. It is fantastic to get into. Man, binge-worthy stuff. I'm having a problem bringing stuff out of the top of my head at the moment that's just there. Ian, what else you got going on?
Let's see. What are we watching in the Malone house these days? Yellowstone, definitely a big one for us. That is on Paramount Network, formerly known as Spike TV. Really, really neat story. Stars Kevin Costner. It is set on a huge ranch in Montana. It's got a real kind of modern westerny vibe, which I'm a huge fan of. But really, really, really big stories with really, really good characters and a great cast that brings them to life. Other stuff I'm watching on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us is a blast of a show that my wife and I just kind of stumbled upon out of nowhere about a week ago because we were surfing around, didn't have anything to watch. It is a documentary series on Netflix that talks about all the toy stuff that we grew up with as kids. So, case in point, first one I wanted to watch was G.I. Joe. It talks about, where America was at in the 50s, give or take, early 60s, whenever G.I. Joe came out. It was cool to be a patriot. We were still kind of riding high off of World War II. So G.I. Joe, and, they were trying to figure out, okay, we're doing great with Barbie. How do we get, figures or toys of this ilk that we're not going to call dolls in the hands of boys? Well, G.I. Joe was the answer to that. And that was great right up until Vietnam, when it wasn't cool to be a soldier anymore. And G.I. Joe had to roll with that. And then G.I. Joe went down the tubes and just about went under in the 1970s until somebody got the bright idea in the 80s to shrink them down to these little 3 3/4 action figures and launch a cartoon and a comic book. And everything changed. So, just having that history element of what was going on in the world that drove the decisions, why the toy company decided to make these figures, and then propelling it all the way up through the 80s, which was my generation. I totally remember hanging out at the babysitter's house, when I was 8 years old, and G.I. Joe and Transformers were back to back every day, man. And I had Snake Eyes, I had Storm Shadow, I had Flint, I had Duke, I had Lady J, I had Scarlet, I had Cobra Commander, I had all of them. And then Transformers, of course, Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, Soundwave, had all of those guys, waited for Transformers the movie to come out, owned the cassette for the soundtrack, owned the VHS tape when it dropped on video, so watched that one. There's another one on pro wrestling. So for those who loved the pro wrestling interview that we did with Raj Giri of WrestlingInc.com, there's a whole special on this about pro wrestling and how toys became an integral part of Vince McMahon's rise to power as the head of pro wrestling. So anyway, The Toys That Made Us, documentary series on Netflix. If you're around 30 to 40, 45, you're going to remember all of this stuff. It's a total trip down memory lane, and it's also going to teach you some stuff that you may not have known. So those are kind of my contributions. Alrighty, so next dude mail question comes to us from Chuck, and here's my Florida State question that I totally expected when I opened the email box this week. Hey guys, fellow Knoll alum here. Okay, so he's an alum. That's good. Is it just me, or does the Florida State coaching search seem like a complete and total dumpster fire? What do you guys think about the Taggart firing, and who's on your hot board for Florida State's next HC? Happy Thanksgiving and go Knowles. I was on board with the Taggart firing. I was on the fence about it prior to the Miami game, but when we rolled out there and looked that bad against a horrible Miami team, I didn't blame him for pulling the trigger on it. As far as the timing, I know a lot of people took umbrage with that. They thought you should have given him the rest of the year. And my response to that is, why? If you know you're going to fire him, and given where we're at now in college football with the early signing period being the 1st of December and all of the money that's at stake and all the plans that have to be made from December to literally the first 5 days of February, if you know you're going to fire a guy at the end of the season, why wait? Go ahead and pull the trigger on November 5th, whatever it was. Gives you a chance to get the early start on the, on the coaching search. You're not competing with other schools that have openings. As it stands right now, we're competing with Arkansas and somebody else. I can't remember them, but that's it. So I didn't disagree with the timing. They were not getting better under Willie. And I freely admit that I didn't think Florida State gave Willie Taggart everything he needed to work with, but they certainly gave him a lot. When he came to him and said, I need $1 million coordinator in Kendall Briles, and I need to retool my entire offensive coaching staff because I blew the hire on most of them in year one, they pulled the trigger and they brought in the guys that he asked for. So, they gave the guy a lot. They brought in the guy that he originally wanted for his defensive coordinator and Jim Leavitt as an assistant. Nothing really ever changed and got better. And now you're finding out that practice was pretty much a total train wreck behind the scenes. There really wasn't a whole lot going on there. It was unorganized. Nobody knew what they were supposed to be doing. You got players pretty well admitting that a lot of guys really hadn't bought in on Willie. They thought he was a nice guy, but didn't really see him as a guy who frankly had much of a plan for anything. That's why he looked clueless on the sidelines. So Willie Taggart was a great guy. I really wanted him to work because I think he was truly a Knoll. And I think he was not giving you lip service when he said, this is my dream job. He was not ready for this job. He's just not, he's not this level of coach. He will do great if he can go back to a USF or a Western Kentucky or a Western Michigan or wherever it is he goes from here. But he's just not a Power 5 level coach, at least not at this point in his career. Maybe he will be one day. I hope he is. He's a good guy. Certainly want to credit him for coming in and cleaning up our academics. But, we're not Butch Jones. We're not Tennessee. I don't frankly at the end of the day want to hear about what great men we're cranking out and we're sending them on to do great things in life. That's awesome. Time to win some football games. When you're this heavily invested in a sport, you're shelling out this much money, it's time to win some football games. So as far as my hot board goes, naturally I'd love Bob Stoops. That wasn't going to happen. They had to make a run at him. I'm glad they did. Apparently, they offered him everything that, if you believe, depending on which source you read, they offered him pretty much everything he wanted. But I think it came down inevitably to the fact that Bob Stoops just doesn't necessarily want to coach in college football right now. He's got a dream gig with the XFL. He's making $5 million a year. From what I understand, his coaching staff with the Dallas Renegades is like a greatest hits who's who of all of his best buddies. They're going to show up. They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to coach some games, and then they're going to go home to their wives and hang out with their families. College football, there is no offseason anymore. Between recruiting and 15-hour days, you work, and he's on record to say that he didn't want to do that anymore, particularly not in the Southeast where you've got to compete against Alabama, Georgia, et cetera, and I don't blame him at almost 60 years old. It's why he turned down Florida. Allegedly, that's why he turned us down, but you had to make a run at him. As far as guys on my hot board, I really like Matt Campbell of Iowa State. I know he's a popular one that a lot of people are mentioning right now. Guy who seems to do a lot seems to get the max out of everything that he has. That's exactly what Florida State needs. Seems to have a real penchant for coaching the offensive line. Definitely something that Florida State needs. He's 30, I think he's like 39, 40. So I'm a big fan of a guy like that. Also, James Franklin of Penn State, name you're hearing batted around a lot. That'd be a big splash hire. Don't think you can go wrong with that. Be very fond of that one. I like Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. Also another guy who just gets everything he can get out of what he has to work with wherever he goes. Anytime you can put Wake Forest in the conversation for anything, you're a pretty stinking good football coach. And from what I hear from people who've gone to the ACC kickoffs and stuff, nice guy. So Dave Clawson. I don't want anything to do with PJ Fleck. We just got rid of a guy who's full of slogans and catchphrases and charisma and blah, 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 blah. The minute that crap goes awry, they turn on you with a quickness. I don't want anything to do with that. He's also coaching at Minnesota. Great. You went almost undefeated. You really didn't play anybody. I'm also not interested in Brian Kelly. I hear that name batted around a lot from Notre Dame. Dave and I talked about that off air. Just not a big Brian Kelly guy. I think he's a good coach. If we hired him, I'm not going to argue with it. I'm still going to root for him. I hope he succeeds. I think there are some things to like about Brian Kelly, but as a whole, I just don't like his temperament, and I don't like a guy who seems like he's always looking for a new job. We got rid of that with Jimbo Fisher. So anyway, that's my take on Florida State. If Scott was here, I'm sure he'd probably weigh in. Follow him on Twitter at Fungobats. He certainly has some thoughts on that. So go catch up with him there. So okay, moving on. Let's see here.
I see I got skipped over for the Florida State talk, but that's okay.
Oh, did you have thoughts on Florida State? I'm sorry, sir. Go right ahead. Opine. The floor is yours. No.
I noticed how you got to weigh in on the Miami, but when it comes down to it, the Florida State stuff comes out, and Ian Malone puts everything out there eloquently, writes the book, throws everything forward. We talk about how Scott's got stuff on Twitter, and all of a sudden, okay, let's go to the next subject now. Can the Miami fan not speak intelligently about their rival?
That is yet to be seen.
Oh, this hurts my sensibilities, sir.
All right. Opine on my Knowles, sir. I give you the floor. Go for it. I'm going to get some water while you do that.
One of the questions your man brought up there had to do with whether or not this coaching search has been a dumpster fire or not. And I think that the thing that most people are looking at, what's on social media. In the age of social media, everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants to put it forward. And what ends up happening is people end up finding out that, oh, this isn't true, but everyone's talking about it because one source is quoting another source, and it's all the same source going forward. So, I think that Florida State, in some cases, in my opinion, has done themselves a disservice by whether or not it was warranted at this point or not after a year and a half getting rid of their coach. I think other coaches look at that, and they're going to want to put something into the contract that puts them in the same level where Coach Taggart was when he was here, which is a high buyout, which I don't know that Florida State's going to do again. I think that is what ends up making this job not as attractive to larger coaches or up-and-coming people that are coming around. Again, my opinion. So, I would not be surprised if you guys ended up with somebody that was trying to push their name up again. Maybe a coordinator that's got no head coaching experience, or a coordinator or someone that's at a really smaller school. I don't know, like FAU maybe, Maybe there's a Coach Lane Kiffin in your future?
No, I don't think so. I mean, listen, I think you hit on something very, very pertinent about social media, and you're exactly right. In this day and age of social media, you really have to have your antennae up to know what you're dealing with, to know what's real and what's bull crap, because they'll tweet anything. I mean, when Rich Eisen decided to say something about Deion Sanders being up for the head coach at Florida State, everybody in the world, so I'd start getting tweets from people. Buddy of mine up in Nashville tweeted that to me. He's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, no, of course not. The guy's never had a coach. He's never coached a day in his life outside of maybe some pee-wee stuff or, a coaching camp or something. He's not a coach. He's not an actual candidate. But because it blew up on Twitter and his name is Deion Sanders, people who don't know any better think it's a real story. It's the same thing with Lane Kiffin. You sent me that tweet. You said, sources say Lane Kiffin has expressed interest in the Florida State job. Well, freaking of course he has. He's Lane Kiffin and he's stuck at FAU. Of course he would like another run at the big time. We thank him for his interest. Go elsewhere. We don't want you here. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what they told him. As far as coaches not wanting to come to Florida State, I don't know where you're getting. I don't know how you're drawing that conclusion. Because, again, depending on which source you follow, they had extensive conversations with Stoops, and we've chronicled why that probably fell through. They've also met with Mark Stoops. According to one source that I consider very reliable, they've already interviewed Brent Venables, and they continue to run their search. I think one of the reasons why the perception is that it's the process of dumpster fire is because they're not talking about anything. It was all about Bob Stoops, hot and heavy for about 48 hours there when you've got the local ABC affiliate in Tallahassee all but tweeting that it's all but about done, and then it doesn't happen, and then you get radio silence for the next week and a half. Well, of course you're going to have radio silence. Do you want them to come out and just tell you everything that's going on? They can't. Number one, they shouldn't because that's bad business, and number two, a lot of these guys that they want to talk to are currently coaching in other jobs. You can't talk to Matt Campbell while Matt Campbell is still competing for a New Year's Six Bowl at Iowa State. You can't talk to PJ Fleck at Minnesota, like him or not. I mean, they've got one loss. They're playing games that matter. He can't come out and interview. Now, by firing Willie Taggart, what you're able to do now is you're able to go ahead and get the word in the line to the agents and the people who make the deals behind the scenes to say, listen, we're going to be interested in your guy. When the season is up, Matt Campbell, we're going to want to talk to you. So, can't talk to Matt Campbell right now, but we can certainly reach out to his agent. And then when asked, you can say, well, we haven't spoken with Matt Campbell, and you're not lying. But you have spoken with his representatives, and the wheels are already greased so that when the season is over, you conduct a round of interviews over a day, and then you make your announcement at a press conference as to who you're hiring. But you've already had time to work out the ones and twos on contracts. I'm going to need this in terms of staff. I'm going to need this in terms of money. I'm going to need this in terms of buyout. And you're done.
I got you.
Unless you have anything else, sir, I'm going to move on to our next dude mail question.
You may proceed.
Thank you for your approval, sir. All right, so next question comes to us from Ken. Hey guys, saw on Facebook where you posted about posted the story about the possible rules change with the NBA's postseason. As an old schooler myself, I hear you on where the game is now, but I still follow it and still love it. That said, what do you guys think about these proposed changes if they happen? Dave, did you get a chance to read that story about the NBA?
I did. I got the opportunity to kind of look at it for a minute, and I'm okay with the playoff changes. I don't think that really does a whole lot other than just kind of making things a little simpler on their end of it. I think the midseason tournament is a mistake. The NBA season is long enough as it is. It's already a big enough draw on those guys' bodies. I think that if you do something midseason that way, it just puts things in a bad light. Let's rehaul the playoff part of it. If you really want to make basketball interesting, why don't we do something opposite? Give us a few less games to have to deal with, so all the games that are played mean a little more, and maybe that will make things a little more interesting for fans that kind of just watch it day in and day out. It's not quite as bad as baseball when it comes to the day in day out grind of how many games they have, but it's definitely the games don't mean as much as they probably should if there was more of maybe a 60-game season or even a 70-game season.
Fair enough. Yeah, listen, this is the way of things now in sports. Just like we talked about earlier with movie theaters and what they're competing with now to try and get people to come out and buy tickets. Sports is kind of in the same boat. And we touched upon this with Mark Schlabach in our college football preview earlier on this summer. A lot of programs are looking for ways to get butts in the seats. And the NBA, not immune to that. They're not immune to that problem. So, they're looking to tinker with their postseason to try and make it a little bit more spicy by getting better matchups and trying to spruce things up. So I don't begrudge them that. A lot of it for me is that I just only have so much bandwidth for sports. So, I'm not, 20 years old anymore with all the time in the world outside of college classes just to sit around and watch sports all day. So I have to be kind of choosy about what I watch. And for me, that turns out to be college football, Major League Baseball, and NASCAR. And that's pretty well where I spend the bulk of my time. But all right, last dude mail question because we are definitely running out of time here. Oh, speaking of NASCAR. Question comes from Malcolm. Okay, Ian, let's hear it. The NASCAR season is in the books and Kyle Busch is our champion. And I'm pissed. I get it, the guy's a generational talent, but I still hate him. It doesn't help that the race finale at Homestead absolutely sucked. Anyway, what are your thoughts? P.S. Who will be in the 48 in 2021? Oh, yeah. News story for those who don't follow NASCAR. 7-time champion Jimmie Johnson announced last week that 2020 is going to be his final season in the sport. So big news from the world of stock car racing. Naturally, that's a very coveted seat. A lot of people want to know who's going to be in that, so I'll start with that. Don't really know. You never really know with Rick Hendrick. He can go out and hire a superstar free agent. I want to say Bubba Wallace is up, or he could reach into the Xfinity Series or the amateur ranks and pull up an unknown. He could go out and hire a journeyman like he did with Alex Bowman for the 88. You never really know. Given my druthers, I'd love to see Bubba in that seat. He's already in with Chevrolet because of his relationship with Petty. He is a superstar in the making if you think he can drive. And I think the evidence at Indianapolis and a couple of other tracks this year would show that he can. Let's put that personality and that star power in big-time equipment, and let's see what happens. Because if Bubba Wallace broke loose, it'd be everywhere. I don't care if you're a NASCAR fan or not. If you're just a casual sports fan, you're going to hear about NASCAR at that point. That's what Bubba Wallace can bring to the table. Plus, he's just a heck of a follow on Twitter, and I like him. So good on him. I'd love to see Bubba Wallace in the 48. As for the end of the season, Kyle Busch is the champion. Yeah, I mean, it's, listen, he's arguably the best there is on the track and the best there has been in NASCAR for some time. That said, if I'm Phelps, the president of NASCAR, I hand that man that trophy and then I head backstage and proceed to punch my testicles over and over and over again. This is a guy who gets out of the car every week and bitches about how much he hates the series, hates the sport, and hates the cars because he just doesn't think they drive the way that he should. And that's frankly just not the kind of ambassador you want for your sport. He's a petulant child, and that's rowdy. His fans love him for that because he wins a frack load of races. I have no problem tipping the cap to the talent. Absolutely. I do think there's a place for him. He is undeniably the black hat in NASCAR right now. He's the guy that everybody loves to hate, rightfully so. And I don't like him. So I hate the fact that he's the champ, but I also don't think it's a very good thing for the sport. I think his personality mitigates some of the great things that he can do on the racetrack sometimes. And as somebody who wants to see this sport succeed, I don't think he does anything for you on that front. So that's kind of my thought on Kyle Busch. And yes, you're right. The finale absolutely sucked, which is too bad because the Xfinity finale was fantastic. So, okay, that's going to do it for Dude Mail. We are headed on to White Flag. Coming down to the wire with the White Flag. So here we go.
White flag.
Okay, so White Flag is the section where we talk about things we're looking forward to, which heading into the holidays ought to be bountiful. Brother Daniels, what are you looking forward to in the days and weeks to come?
Oh, food, sir. Food.
What you got on the docket for Thanksgiving?
With Thanksgiving coming up, I'm going to be frying one turkey, and I will be smoking a turkey breast.
Attaboy.
Yes, sir. Gonna do a little bit of everything. We are inviting some of Abby's workmates over that aren't going to be able to spend the holidays with their families to have a little bit of home cooked. And of course, mom and dad will be here. My mom and dad will be here as well. With a lot of food. So looking forward to it, looking forward to the opportunity to be able to spread the wealth a little bit. And I have not smoked a turkey breast yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to how that's going to turn out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anytime, I want to say I've smoked one of those since I got a smoker, and it came out really, really well. Let's face it, dude, anytime you can put some meat on a smoker, it's going to be a good day. To that end, give a shot someday at smoking a ham. I don't know if you're a ham guy, but if you just go buy your 99 cents a pound, Sam's Choice, whatever at Walmart, spiral cut ham, brown sugar, brown honey glazed, whatever your fancy is, rather than putting it in the oven for 3 or 4 hours, put it on your smoker and put some smoke on it and then bring it out and put your glaze on it. Dude, it's a hit. We hosted Thanksgiving here at our house, or not last year, but I think the year before. And I did that with a ham, and it got ripped apart. Like, there were parents here with kids who are notoriously bad, picky eaters, and it was like crack rock to these kids. Like, they were just running back to the stove to peel another piece and peel another piece. And their mom was asking Natalie, what do you do? Because I can't get my kids to eat like that. She's like, we smoked it, and that's that. So we're going to do that here. Also going to smoke a turkey breast. Then we'll do all the sides. Quick question. Are you a dressing man or are you a stuffing man?
Wow. I am more of a dressing person.
Okay.
You get it. No, I'm sorry. Stuffing. I'm a stuffing person. Yes. It always confuses me which one's which. I'm not a big stovetop person.
Right.
I am the other one.
That's the crap you do when you're doing Thanksgiving in college is the stovetop.
We are doing Abby's making a handmade, and again, whichever one it's called, stuffing or dressing, with breadcrumbs that we're making ourselves, and that's kind of some sausage in it and that kind of stuff. So
okay, that's dressing. Dressing.
There you go.
Dressing, as we call it in the South. Yeah, we're doing the same thing here. Good old cornbread dressing. Oh yeah, dice you up some good old chicken and throw. If you could smoke a chicken before you put your dressing together and use that in there someday, trust me, that'll kick your dressing up a notch. A little smoked chicken action, a little onion, a little celery. Yeah, that'll get it done. What is your take on the sweet potato souffle?
I'm all right with that. I'll have a little bit of it. I've never been a big sweet potato person as it is,
right?
But I'll have a little bit of that going on. I'm more of a corn casserole, green bean casserole kind of person.
I can get on board with the green bean casserole. My wife makes a mean green bean casserole. I get down with that. How about the cranberry sauce? Where do you stand on the cranberry sauce?
Straight out of the can, sir. You take that thing, you put it on there, you slice it up nice and thin, and you put it on your plate.
Yeah, you and my kid would totally get along great on that one, no problem. So yeah, I'm a fan of all the above. Thanksgiving, it is a good time. We're gonna keep it low key in our house. Heading down to my in-laws' place in the thriving metropolis of Dunn, North Carolina, and gonna do some turkey and do some ham. And make a nice lunch after it. Then we're coming back to the house. I actually have to work on Friday, but Natalie's got the turkey breast and the ham and everything ready to roll. She's off, and we'll make a little spread here at the house that we'll nibble on, and then that'll take us through the weekend. Because you can't not have leftovers at Thanksgiving. Like, I don't care if you are, even if it's just the two of you hanging out, you got to make enough where you got the turkey sandwiches Thanksgiving night. I mean, let's be real here. We got to have priorities. That's America, dadgummit.
That's going to take you all the way through Monday, sir. You should have turkey all the way through Monday.
True that. Ooh, man, speaking of such things, we fried up some venison this weekend that was absolutely out of sight. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, white flag for me. Definitely looking forward to the Thanksgiving holiday. Looking forward to the food. Looking forward to friends and family, without a doubt. This is my favorite time of the year. From Thanksgiving heading into Christmas. We enjoy entertaining people in our house as it is. As you've surmised from listening to this show, Dave and I both love to cook. And what's better than cooking is having people over to help you eat it. And the fellowship and the family and the friendship and everything that kind of goes along with that. That's fun any time of year, whether it's for a NASCAR race or, somebody's birthday or a college football game or whatever. It's always great to get together. But there is something special about it in the holidays. So one of the things, speaking of holidays, that I did want to throw out, and we don't get any kind of plugs or whatever. This is just something that charity that I'm really fond of. The folks over at Samaritan's Purse do a charity drive every year called Operation Christmas Child, whereby you can go to any number of places, from businesses to churches to whatever, and you pick up a shoebox, and you fill up the shoebox with just toys and stuff for a kid of a specific age, whether it's a toddler or a middle kid that's like anywhere from 5 to 9, or a preteen to early teenager. and you just load them up with stuff, man. And you take the box to the, back to the person that you got it from, and they send it off to some kid who's in Ethiopia or Africa or wherever who's not going to have a freaking Christmas. And they get something cool for Christmas. So we went and did that this weekend in our house. We typically grab a box for all three of us. I get one, Natalie gets one, and Xander gets one. And we head out to Walmart, and we load up the boxes. And that's a big tradition that we do every year, and it's a lot of fun. So, getting to give a kid that not going to have a Christmas his first Optimus Prime, or his first, package of G.I. Joes, or a Batman hat, or a Superman T-shirt, or a soccer ball with a pump, something like that. It's just, it's a neat charity. It's really simple, and it goes a long way to helping a kid have a great Christmas. So Samaritan's Purse, Operations Christmas Child, those people are awesome. I'm sure you can find them online, SamaritansPurse.com. Like I said, go find your local restaurant, local business, local church. They'll hook you up with a box and get you squared away. So, all right, guys. Well, as mentioned, we are going to do a post-credit scene afterward to break down a couple of ones and twos on The Mandalorian with spoilers. So this is the end for you if you do not want spoilers on The Mandalorian. But first, thank you as always, for listening to the show. If you do like it, be sure to give us 5 stars on Google, Apple Music, wherever it is that you subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. If they let you put 5 stars in a blurb, please put it on there. We really appreciate that. Also, if you want to get in a question for our kind of 2020-2019 look-back show coming up in December, you can get that to us via all the usual means, dudesinhyperspace@gmail.com via email, at the Hyperdudes for Facebook and Twitter. Use the hashtag DudeMail on Twitter, and you can find us that way. Doesn't matter if it's Christmas stuff, sports stuff, geek stuff, whatever. We take all comers for the Dude Mail questions. So thanks as always for listening to the show, and stick around for the credits. We're going to talk some Mandalorian with spoilers. But until then, see ya.
See ya.
All right, Dave, real quick. Mandalorian with spoilers. Were you a fan of the Baby Yoda?
Yeah. First of all, 50-year-old Baby Yoda that could use the Force. That's
pretty
fantastic.
Trippy. They're going to sell some toys with that one.
How were they not ready for that? It didn't seem like they had already started manufacturing them yet. Then all of a sudden they were like, oh, they like cute things in the Star Wars universe. How did we ever figure that one out, Ewoks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really cool. I'm really interested to see where they go with that. I really can't wait to see what they roll out with regard to the Mandalorian lore. Watching in this last episode, all those freaking guys just descend out of nowhere with the jetpacks and all that, and that like classic Mandalorian rollout scene. I was just like,
yes, sir. I got to get me one of those.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, man, great show.
Yeah, the whole premise, the whatever, and they're keeping you in the dark still pretty much about why the bounty was the Baby Yoda. So that's going to be the interesting part of that going through to see exactly what they were wanting. Is it actually is it a clone? Is it just a younger version of that race? Like, what is it? What's going on? So I'm really, really interested to see where that goes.
Well, I also find it really interesting to know that they didn't just, and they shouldn't have, but they didn't just completely say, okay, well, the Empire's done. See ya. Peace. Bye-bye. We're not even, we beat them. They're done here. We're going to move on to the First Order, like they should have done in The Force Awakens. They are referencing the fact that there were remnants of the Empire left over that are still at play. There's still there's a vacuum there, and you don't just wipe out every member of the Empire in one foul swoop. There's still people out there who are going to want to try and fill that void. And the fact that you're seeing that now in the Werner guy who plays the guy who put the bounty out for the Baby Yoda, that's neat. And I'm anxious to see where they go with that. To be sure, that's gonna turn into the First Order somewhere along the line, and I'll be interested to watch that transition.
Yeah, as we said earlier, the storytelling is fantastic. Getting to see the Jawas strip the ship, the whole nine, man. It's just been a great nostalgia ride, and I would expound more if we had not done the Lord of the Rings extended version of the podcast itself.
Yeah, right. I hear you. Last shout out to Nick Nolte. I love his character. I have spoken. That guy's awesome. Good old freaking Nick Nolte, man. Crazy Nick Nolte. So
I hope
all
we have
right.
not seen the last of him.
I really do too. He's Nick Nolte, man. To be sure, they're going to
No,
come
not
back.
not Nick, the character.
Oh yeah, touche. To be sure, though, you got Nick Nolte on the payroll. You're not going to just all right. Thanks for your one-off, Nick. Peace. Enjoy your time over there in Crazy Land with Gary Busey. So yeah, all right. Well, that's pretty well all I got. The Baby Yoda, and I love the Mandalorian rollout scene at the end of episode 3. I can't wait to see. Friday is going to be a long freaking day for me, man. As soon as I get off the clock, I'm going to have the next Mandalorian episode in the queue, and I can't wait to watch The Irishman. So I'm jazzed to see what The Irishman's going to be. It's getting great reviews early on, and yeah, I'm ready to sit down and watch that bad boy.
Yes, sir.
So all right, sir. Well, thank you as always for your time, and I will catch up with you over the next week or two for our next episode.
All right, man. See you soon. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.